black women want their hair to be like white women. They exist. Those women are there. Whether we're gonna fight it, it's irrelevant. So when we say right now, black people got offended, can you please be specific? And guys, this is not a white black issue. Here it's an identity thing, and accepting the fact that there are black women who love the fact that they want their hair to be white.
Yes.
Yeah? And there are black men who are okay with the fact that they want black women to have white hair.
Yes.
So when you said that it was racist, it was offensive. It was offensive to who?
That's very simple. That it was offensive to black people, but it's not a texture kind of thing. It was bad hair. A black person can have bad hair, and a black person can also have good hair. You know what I mean? So you can show bad hair, good. White person, here's your bad hair, here's your good hair. Good. That's fine. You know what I mean? A personal preference on the kind of hair you want, that's your personal preference. So whether you want to weave or you want an afro, it's up to you. Personally, I've got a daughter. I wanted to embrace her Africanicity, so to speak. Ooh, I hate that phrase. But you know what I mean? So I'm going the natural hair route because that's, I think, what we should be celebrating. She should wear it like a crown, that it is. You know what I mean? And that's my preference. If someone wants to wear a weave, hey, that's on them. I don't think the ad was saying a weave is better than afro per se, but they got it wrong in terms of the imagery and the messaging. But as black people, we should be enraged because that was a poor job of blatant ignorance and job and
I'm not
That's
enraged.
simple. That's simple.
So I wanna. The first thing I wanna say to the question is, we need to segment black people. There are black people like Cameron and myself that were not offended.
Yes.
I personally saw nothing wrong with the ad. Is the other thing I want to say, because the white girl in the ad had normal hair according to Abelungu, and the black chick in the ad with her hair had dried, damaged, etc. And both of you have raised this thing that if it was a black model and a black model, no problem. If it was a white model and a white model, no problem. Which means the issue is more undertoning, not so much that the ad was inaccurate. The black chick in the ad probably had damaged hair, and we can all agree. But now, juxtaposed to this white girl, with us being shown normal white girl hair, the undertones became an issue. I think that's all I want to say for now.
Yes, the undertone made it seem like black hair is inferior to a weave or white hair.
But the ads were accurate, is what I want to emphasize.
No, I don't think they were accurate.
According to Abelungu, that's normal white hair. According to black girls,
No,
that's dry and damaged hair.
No, it's not. It's not. Dry and damaged hair does not, just because you're an afro doesn't mean that your hair is dry and damaged. You understand? There's different kinds of hair. There's 4C, there's all kinds of things that go into hair care, guys. And all I'm saying is that it was a huge oversight, which shows that they didn't care. And as a result, they must just face those consequences. But the thing here is, guys, it goes back to, well, I won't go there, but the actual thing about preferences, that's another issue altogether. You know, so black men do like weaves, black men like afros, and women alike.
No,
you know what I mean?
Black men don't care, to be fully honest. Tina, we'll take a woman, she can come bald, you know, there was obviously indoctrination at some point. I mean, Malcolm X speaks about this as well, where even black men at some point, whatever these things, putting chemicals in their hair. It's a discussion very much for black women. Obviously, we can also weigh in. I hate this thing that black men are not allowed to speak on female issues. I've got sisters, I've got daughters, I've got mothers. Black women need to come together and speak about, look, what are we going to do about our hair? And also, very importantly, to what you're saying about preferences, segment. The chicks that want to wear these hats called wigs, because it's a hat. That's the only way I grew to accept it. It's a hat like any other hat. It just happens to look like hair. If you like wearing this hat, it's your life. If your hair doesn't make you feel confident, you're like, let me wear my hat today, called a wig, by all means. Those that want to go natural and be black conscious, and I'm a sister, do that without infringing on these chicks that like wearing hats. That's all, because tomorrow you wear a cap, and when I point out that you're wearing a cap or a turban or whatever, you're like, yeah, at least it's a hat. We had Lente Kanda, it just doesn't look like that girl's hat. So segment black people and let black women come out and say, look guys, this is what we want to do with our hair. This is where the history comes from. We want to re-indoctrinate our kids better to love and embrace their hair, but give them the options of you can also wear hats if you want.
What you're saying speaks back to what Cameron was actually saying.
Identity?
The identity of the hair, and and it's so funny that how these guys take what we are, repackage it, and all of a sudden, wow, it's so amazing. You know, if you look, just go a bit north in Africa, Eastern and Western, even down here, the different hairstyles, you know, the cuts and how it was shaped. It's now on fashion weeks and like, oh my goodness, it's so cool. We've been doing that. So again, from a now point of view, how do we go back and say, listen, actually, our ancestors used to do this. This is how we wore our hair. You should be proud to wear your hair like this because X, Y, Z. But Princess Sophia and all these things, and you're surprised now when she wants to be a princess with hair that goes wishy-washy.
100%.
But you're not teaching her that this is your crown, this is your hair. Yeah, taking care of it is a bit... takes longer than, you know, putting a weave on or whatever.
Hat.
It's your hair, Oksala. You can't change it. You know what I mean? So, again, so as much as, you know, it's a preference, I really think, I don't like telling people what to do, but I think if there's a consciousness level that we are going to start from a point of departure, if we're going to speak land and, let's start here. Uban. Okay, your hair's like this. How do you handle it?
Yeah, let's let Mama speak on female
so
hair.
they need to... No, but now you can't keep quiet as Ubaba
No,
and
I'm
be
not saying that,
surprised.
sorry.
You know what I mean?
Who else?
Oh, yeah. But my parting shot will be just that. Guti, as men, that's the role we play. Guti, you can't sit and, you know, keep quiet.
Because you're not
when
a
you
woman.
see that, Naibo, this woman is actually sending it down straight. You're sending us back. It's recessive, in my opinion. It's recessive. Wear your hair with pride, man.
You try taking care of natural hair.
I do.
Listen, and
You nails, usuke wathatha
no, you know
i-bread
what?
lapha bakungena.
I'm not taking away. I mean, I had, up until a few days ago, I've had natural hair for the past 5 years or so. And one of the reasons I stopped, because for me, it was just a lot of time and I've been very busy. It just was not, for my convenience, it was not working out.
The natural hair.
The natural hair, for my convenience, it was not working out.
Shall I just go?
Because it required, you know, weekly wash, conditioning, detangling. There's a lot that goes
Shall I just
into
go?
natural hair. For me, I just felt like to help with my convenience of time and space, let me just do this, which is what I do. But then, but at the same time, I'm an advocate of natural hair because I've had it for the longest time. But I don't want to take away from women who choose to not have natural hair. And then we take away from the Africanness when we do that. Because now there's this element that comes in, which you said, is that now, you know, when you wear your natural hair, there's a social conscious bias. I mean, I could have my relaxed hair or whatever and still have a conscious mind.
Contradictory.
How so?
Because you were saying, all African, but you're in a weave. It's Western influenced. It's white influenced.
But a lot of things are white influenced, including our clothing.
100% exactly.
Is it fun if
Why
she
do
wears
we
a
wear?
rabbit,
Why do we wear our clothes on one day of the year? We choose Heritage Day, which is now Bright Day, to wear our clothes. Why can't I wear it on Monday to work? Why? No, it's in. When we sit and we say, okay, it's okay. No, fine, I'll wear a suit. No, I want to wear ipeshu and be proud of it.
It's a Halloween
You know
costume.
what I mean? But I'm saying, Guti, you can wear your weave, but then if you wear your weave, like, I'm not gonna take you seriously when you're like, yeah, me, I'm Afro, what, but you're not, are you really?
But then,
if you're Afro, you need to show and embody it.
But we
Don't
don't
say
have-
it and live.
We don't have that movement or agenda so that we can all, in our collective consciousness, synchronize our actions. So you can't have a black identity without having black unity because we've got to agree on what it means to be black. That's if you want to continue with the term black. I mean, I'd prefer African, but also again, is another word, you know, to describe a physical place. So the whole notion of being black, for me, it's too complicated, man. Because firstly, it doesn't mean shit. I'm not black, actually. Firstly. There's nothing black, just like a white person isn't white. These are two words that represent a European, a person of European origin and a person of African origin. That's what white and black means, right? But we don't use European and African. Why?
It's less offensive.
Because it's real, no. Because there's something tangible with it. Black is a notion pie in the sky. It means focal. Literally, it means nothing. Show me a black person.
I haven't seen one.
We're having a conversation about a non-existent entity.
What's
So-
the non-existent entity?
a black person and a white person.
Oh, to you.
The existing
To you.
entity will show me
I
a
just
black
wanna,
person.
I just want to
again.
add that. No,
Sure.
I believe
Sure.
in black people, but it's fine.
Sharp. So I'm saying, stick to African. If you want to talk about African people, it's people who come from an African origin. We have a pigmentation that ranges from white to the naviest of blues.
And dark-skinned people that are born in Europe, what do you call them?
Where do they come from?
Doesn't matter. What
So
do you call them? They're born
They're
there.
they're of African
been there for 3
origin. That's about
generations.
your heritage. My grandfather was an Englishman.
What's the difference between that and black? It's just
So-
naming convention.
Once again, it means nothing. Black means nothing. White means nothing.
you.
African and European means something specific.
I'm going to bring it back to natural hair, right? Every opinion, every outlook, perspective, everything stems from your core. That's your source. For the longest time, when we grew up as young kids, we didn't have a choice in how we wear our hair. That choice was taken away from us when rules and whatever's in schools were put in there, say, you
White
can't
schools.
have your hair, yeah.
Sure.
You can't have your hair. Even in black schools, I still have issues
Which
with
are-
black
which are
schools.
white schools, but it's fine.
White-owned schools are like, relax your hair or keep it neat, flat. We go to a black school, no, everyone just go, you know?
Sure.
So we all have one issue or another pertaining to our own hair. In my personal experience, the journey to fully embracing my blackness started with growing my own hair. Started with taking accountability and saying, yes, I was decided for before, now I decide for myself. The most difficult journey with growing natural hair, and I've had it now for like 5 to 6 years, was that first year.
Sure.
It's very difficult for you to stay consistent with growing your own hair, because for the longest time you've been conditioned to think that your hair is impossible to deal with.
Sure.
When you go to even a black salon,
like,
they
"Woo,
feel
shame."
like your hair is impossible to deal with. They feel like you've got more hair than Ukwaita, therefore your price is 200 rands more
Sure.
because there's more effort
Sure.
that needs to go into the roots of your hair. You know, so it starts with you being true to yourself, deciding. It's an actual decision to grow natural hair. Actual decision. So if someone has not reached that mental capacity or spiritual capacity in their lives yet, we don't have the right to impose where we are on other people.
Would you like black men to get involved in the hair thing? Would you like us to grow our hair in solidarity? Understand? Or it doesn't
I don't
matter?
feel like you should grow your own hair in solidarity for anybody. I feel like it is a very personal journey.
Okay.
You
For
know,
the individual.
It's a very individual journey. You can't be in a space and unite with other people if you have not united with yourself.
Amen.
It is a serious problem if you haven't united with yourself. If you don't have something to stand for, if you haven't gone through the journey of finding your own voice, if you haven't found a place for yourself in society,
Hallelujah.
something you can stand for, something you have, I call it the backbone experience. We have too many people without backbone in our
Jeez.
society.
Jeez.
Too many people. If you can't stand what comes from your own body for yourself, don't even think anyone else should hear your opinion. If you can't stand yourself. And hair is very personal like that.
Sorry, your opinions on people who maybe struggle or don't want a backbone and are happy to be led. Because not everyone will ever reach this consciousness you're speaking of. And to be fully honest, the majority of human beings prefer being led, and that's where you have rules being set.
But being
How do you fix that? Because I know Cameron's spoken about it, so finding yourself. How do you fix that for a mass?
But I don't think in people, what she's saying, she's not saying that you should necessarily be leaders. And what she's saying is that you need to know who you are. And that doesn't mean you won't want to be led. But at the same time, you need to consciously know who you are. Because even in you being led, you're going to fall just for anything and everything if you do not know who you are and have a backbone.
Where do you start? Because people don't know how to start this process.
Which kind of process? Knowing who you are.
Yes. I mean, I feel you need to get rid of fear. I feel fear is suppressing us. It's putting us down. It's not allowing us to think, to take control of our minds. As my brother was saying, identity is very important. So you get rid of fear, you are able to go forward. You are able to own businesses. You are able to control, For me, that's freedom.
The first kind of fear that I feel people need to get rid of is fear of being alone.
Sure.
Fear of spending time with yourself.
Sure.
If you don't take the effort to spend time with yourself and find out what your likes, dislikes are, what you're able to tolerate, what you're not able to tolerate, you'll fall for anything. You'll follow anyone because you can't define for yourself who you are in the space in the current time. Current is a very, very important operational word. Current, meaning you evolve. Meaning today, like 5 days ago, she had natural hair. Today, she has a different kind of hair because she's evolved. She's seen how her life has grown. There's nothing wrong with that. That's her journey.
Sure.
You understand? But it's so important for you to know who you are. It's important for you to unite with yourself before you unite with anybody else. It's important.
Who's meant to drive this and drive the fear is what I'm asking. Schools, parents, must you travel the world? Because you found it. But now I believe you think you spontaneously found it. How do you then pass it on and how do other people find it? Because if they never find it, to what you were saying, most people will never have a backbone.
For me personally, it started with hair. In all honesty, Penuel, I can't say... I
Let
can't
people grow their hair, tell parents
At what
at school
age?
and at home to grow
It
their hair.
started with your hair at what age?
I started growing my hair, I think, around the age of 23.
So from 0 to 23, you walked around without an identity. Because you're saying it started with your hair. Your hair started at 23.
My awakening to a sense
Sure.
of self
That's
started at 23.
23.
Then before those years, when I look back now,
Sure.
it was fueled by interactions or information from other sources and other people and all of that. At the end of the day, I had to sit down, put all these things together and be like, what is it that feels right for me, that sounds right for me at this current time? And I kept it moving like that.
So people must find themselves, otherwise no backbone forever.
You're gonna fall for anything. It's like the question you were asking, Uguti, how are you able to identify your leader? You know, there are so many different leaders, but the one that you identify with is the one that speaks to where you are at the current moment.
Is the idea of fixing self before you can join a larger community not counterproductive? Most people don't have the capacity to fix themselves. Most people don't know that they are broken until they're shown something other than themselves and told that that is better, because that's what we're struggling with as blacks. You know, we're trying to point the finger at the black man or at the white man, but every time I drive past a black neighborhood, I'll generally see litter, I'll generally see dilapidation, I'll generally see okoko struggling while kids are playing around in streets.
Or loitering. Smoking.
Doing nothing productive. So the idea that that child who is a burden on ukoko must first find himself, which you started at 23, then where do we as a black people end up? Because you only really come right then at what age? When do you have a proper sense of self? Only now to be engaging with a group. I've found that you're brought out by interaction with other humans. When you come up against somebody who makes you uncomfortable, you're forced to deal with that discomfort. So when a white person walks around and you feel like shit, I'm nayo, that's actually where you need to look at yourself and you don't let nayo. When you feel like a lesser. So I'm speaking specifically to the idea that you must first resolve self before you can be a part of a group, because andithi ubuntu buthi umuntu ngumntu ngabantu, so funeka ujonge abantu uba mawuyazi uba wena uyintoni ungumntu. Now, we don't have that Ubuntu, that collective agenda that I can follow, because there are no black leaders. None. Maybe Paul Kagame in Rwanda.
And me, ho, come on.
I've said. I wouldn't follow
I'm also
you
a black
anywhere
leader.
but to the shopping mall.
But to add on to what you're saying, Cameron, for Cameron mentioning Uguti, it's an interaction with people that drives that or that triggers that. You have to address that uncomfortable
The
feeling in
discomfort,
yourself.
sure.
Yes. For me, with hair, it was not with people. For me, with hair, it was when my hair was this small.
Sure.
And I looked at myself and I had an encounter with myself.
Sure.
And I was like, why ngingekho muhle?
Sure.
That was the first question that bothered me. Why ngingekho muhle? Why is it when it's like this and I can't even expect you to say yo umuhle, or even if someone says yo umuhle with short hair, I can't accept that compliment because personally nangizibheke esipilini angikho muhle. So it started there. Then the journey started with, okay, even if I don't feel muhle right now, I must try and keep on. I don't know what I'm keeping on for, but I must try and keep on.
Waye mama?
My mom,
Yeah.
not around there at that time.
Who raised you?
My mom.
Sure.
So the Khwaita and then Iman, she's been waiting for a while
The entire thing that I was getting to is you got it at 23 and it was with that one-on-one encounter. Where was the affirmation from your parents' side? Because that's going to take you to the fact that your mom was most likely working the whole day and so she couldn't actually raise you to affirm you. And then it goes back to the whole Ubuntu thing. You shouldn't be figuring out who you are at 21, 22. Your parents should have given you some form of a template that is useful to you. Where was that template? And Gamla know who they are because their parents told them and they look at their lives and they're like, no, it makes sense. When I look at every other race, they want to be like us. So we're in the right place.
In terms of the template, for most of our parents, they are part of the generation like to Mama Pem. You know, so if I was a child and said, I want to relax my hair, it was nothing foreign to them, you know. So, but I could understand if my daughter comes up and is like, I'm interested in having straight hair, that would trigger me. Sure. You know, I'd be like, why, Danam, why do you want to relax your hair? Your whole life, I've allowed you to be as natural as possible. For me, it is important for her to see herself in her most natural form. So tomorrow, if she decides to change something about her identity, she's not shook to the core. Excuse me, she's not shook to the core. Yeah, so that for me was important. My parents were not able to affirm that to go to Muhle with natural hair. They've always assorted. I'm not pushing her to find herself.
Okay.
I couldn't inspire her to find herself by telling her to find herself. I had to find me. She learns everything that she is because of me.
And what I've seen now, even with our parents, they are learning and unlearning, so to say.
Sure.
With my mom, we grew up relaxing. It's only a few years ago when I started the journey, she saw it and she started the natural hair journey. Do you understand what I'm saying? So our parents, like you're saying, they come from a different era and their identity for them is starting to be shaken up with us trying to realize who we are. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when I started, even my mom was angry at me when I started to change it, when I saw, you know, because she said, no, but I like you with your natural hair. And what you know, when you're asking where were the parents, sometimes it's not even about them affirming, it's about them not knowing themselves. So with them coming to, with us trying to find our lives and our footing, because I think we're a generation that is starting to, and we might not be the end product, but we are probably the starting foot of trying to find who we are. Yes. And it's going to come with a lot of fault. It's going to come with a lot of learning and unlearning, understanding. Okay, so Cameron is talking about identity. How does that refer to me? You're talking about, but how do we take on, why should I take on black pain? You know, those kind of conversations, they are comfortable, but they are a starting journey. And we then start to become almost a template for our own parents to start questioning their identity and all the things that did in their past. And it's not necessarily their fault. They were conditioned that way. Sure. So we are starting to become the new template for our kids, because now you're teaching your child.
Can Nkweta get her moment in the
Yes,
sun?
that's actually why I was lifting my head.
With the Anyeti, your question was that there are women who love white woman hair. So I assume that white woman hair is relaxed hair or a weave. Ne? So personally, I felt it was too early for us to advocate for wigs. And looking at our history, looking at so many things as black people, I felt it was too early for us to stand up for wigs, and it will come as saying I'm trying to police women. I'm not saying that. I'll look at a typical example of how Nigeria had to remove American stuff in order for their people to be comfortable.
Is policing bad?
Not really.
That word bothers me.
Yeah. So Nigerians had to remove Hollywood stuff in order for them to be comfortable with their content. It was a hard thing to do, I'm sure, because, I mean, they were used to Hollywood movies.
Sure.
But now when you go anywhere, Nigerians love their work.
Sure.
Sure. But back grand.
Sure.
So I felt there was a need at some point. Zisuke.
They tried.
They tried. Zisuke kancane, sizibheke. And I'm going to say that in terms of even looking at how even it affected us in natural hair. You know, when they sell natural hair, they're always selling it as zizokhula. Whenever they selling a natural hair product, it's always a thing of they'll put pearl toothing.
Yeah, volume.
Pearl toothing net jeans ezinye esihlangene. Inwele zam.
True, it's a fact.
Inwele zam nezakha zikhulu ngokufanayo.
Facts.
And when I struggle to see myself, I love short hair. From a young age, my mother used to stress me, angise salon, relaxes, angifuni salon.
You were traumatized.
I don't want to. So now when I started engaging with black products, this is it. Every time without fail, it's gonna make it longer, it's gonna do this. Ndapha ndifuna zikhule. Until I removed myself and I said ngizosifaka isephu neshampoo, qhubeke zikhule ngalendlela kumele zikhule ngazo. So there's so many things I felt like we were too early to say no. We can still. I feel like even now they are in their highest level among wigs on how we look. Most girls right now wanna look like American girls. Already that is screwed up. We don't look like that. So there's so many loopholes that we are agreeing on. It's like, no, masiyeke ivulekile lena, but at the same time, siphinde sikhale when they're gonna come and attack us.
Even the 5C hair, the hair with the hectic shrinkage.
Yes.
My hair is really actually like this big, but when you look at it, it's like this short.
Okay.
Even when we market ourselves on our Instagrams, shy head raqala.
Exactly.
Yes.
Good volume, so that we sell the idea yokuthi our hair will grow and be straight. And on top of that, this narrative is supported by corporations who will buy space on your feed because you sell a certain look, but we are not real. We are not honest.
We're not honest, even though we're fighting this natural hair thing and we feel outraged when things are going on, but we are not honest. We're not having real conversations because without fail, an influencer on a YouTube channel will keep on saying, oh my God, my hair is bad. I still need to put my wig on.
What is the real conversation? Can you please explain that?
No, what's real? When you guys say you're being fake, what's the real conversation that
You said you were not ready. Go raw. You remember you said you were not ready. Remember you gave a disclaimer for policing. Like go raw. Go. There's no police here. There's nothing. Where should we be going? Even if we're not there, but say that okay, this is the train. We should, whether it's this generation or the next or whoever. But either anyway, a generation is you. Because as Cameron mentioned in terms of the DNA. My child, my great-grandson, if he fulfills my dream or my goal. So we shouldn't also be afraid to say in the next 80 years, we shouldn't be scared just because our lifetime, we say, hey, I'm 40, I'm 60, I might not.
Yeah.
Your child, your daughter, your daughter's daughter, your daughter's daughter's daughter, if she manages to cut off all the bad omen in the tree, and now this tree uses up all the energy, it grows up well, now you have an expert tree, and everyone can say, hey, how does this tree work? Now that I think then it's easier than the pouring out. Then and I think that's why I'm sorry to, before I go back, that's why also you had the challenge in terms of the Ubuntu. Do we start, also, and you try to take it out. How do you start to solve these problems? Is it a personal, is it a community? Does it start with community? Does it start with identity? But if you're not lost and you don't know, how then do you look to community? If there's no leader, then what is community? Because without a leader, is there a community? And those kind of questions that go back and forth. But I think with time, there might be a bit of a hack. And it's painful, it sounds like, but it might be a hack because if you take it into, as you said, the family, there was a traumatic experience in your life where you said cut. And I'm thinking of a tree. I'm literally, when you ladies are speaking, I'm thinking of trees. That we are men, we are certain trees but this is the kind of trees we are. We don't have a lot of problems. But with the woman, there's certain types of trees, and they're all different. And the woman may be this other, a willow tree or whatever. And it's a case of you have a tree, there's certain things you prune, and pruning is good in farming, or at least I believe in things that take up too much energy in terms of the tree, but are not giving in terms of the fruit, then it must get off. But if a branch takes a lot of energy, but it's giving good fruit, then keep it. And when you spoke about your hair in terms of, like it's too much, it's too extra. I'm always thinking, what is the result? Is your happiness and you yourself, your personality, does it make you braver to go into a setting, in a business setting and command? Is this the best version of yourself? When I have this kind of a hair, when I go into that setting, I conquer. If when I have this type of hair, when I'm in this setting, when I want to relax, this is where, rather than my hair is relaxed, am I relaxed? Which hair relaxes me, not my hair. And that's, I think,
That's a quotable.
yeah.
Which hair
Treat
relaxes me.
that. You can treat that. But I think that's the disconnect that we sometimes get in terms of these. And I like that you are speaking honestly. You're speaking that there are times where you delve into and you put in, Upenyuel calls it the head, which even though it sounds brazen, it's probably the most kindest way and easiest way of putting it. Because if it's a hat, no one's going to fight against any hat, ever.
Actually.
But as soon as you say, I'm a tree, this is not actually part of the leaves of this tree. Why am I debating this? Because it's not part of the leaves of the tree. It's just an extra. In a tree, you put decorations on tree, you may put things on
Christmas
tree.
tree, like.
You may put a tree house. You may use a tree for certain, but it's not part of the tree. So in terms of, when you're speaking now in terms of the science of a tree, you don't add any of those things in the textbook. Of a willow tree, of an oak tree, and I think maybe that's where the honesty comes in, where the conflation, where we should be comfortable in saying, these are the decor, this is the tree. Sometimes the tree itself is decorative and is enough, and that's fine.
So the conversation this side sounds, when you put it in that analogy, it sounds like we are talking about the tree. Is the tree healthy? Is the tree bearing good fruit? Is the tree not a poisonous plant that kills other trees around it?
A weed.
You see, is it not a weed? Well, what you are saying is, it's okay to have a Christmas tree. It's not a Christmas tree until you put Christmas decorations on it. It's not an event until it's okay to have it. We're not gonna speak against the Christmas tree. It's there, it's okay, we accept it, it's life. Right? Your truth, we were coming back, you were asking for what is real? What is the end product? What do you want this narrative to sound like or be like?
Because of Ubuntu and how we learn from our surroundings, I think growing up, I just wanted to see people comfortable in their own hair.
100%.
And that means that I see less of whatever hair, honestly, that's there. I know it's a bit, maybe it sounds extra. Sometimes I just don't want to see that hair. Sometimes I just want to see us as Zimfuchan, Zimiddle,
So sorry for, do you think that's therapeutic? I'm just trying to find the deep, before you continue your thought.
You know, she's dealing with trauma though.
No.
But I'm just trying to think, were you thinking that shame, these people have gone through so, because again, it's the connect. Were you seeing that if I see so many, in the back of my mind, subtly I'm thinking there's some healing somewhere.
Just cut your hair, Jen. Just take it easy.
Also, guys, contrary to popular belief, there's a lot more black women who don't wear weaves than we think we do. It's just so that capitalism says, hey, nai weave, nai in. And those
media.
who subscribe will subscribe, right? However, generally speaking, a lot of black women actually have or maintain or keep their natural hair. Yeah, they'll do braids, which is what, I don't know, maybe is that considered natural or whatever. I'm not saying don't play with your hair, but if we're going to go back to the tree analogy, you've got a daughter who's a seed that you plant, right? And this tree's growing, and then you hoy oil being a weave. That tree's not going to grow. Well, it'll grow, but there'll be no fruit there. So going back to the origin and who are you and your spine, water the tree.
I just wanted to speak quickly, and I'm glad you raised this again on my daughter, and it's a fight I've had with her mother as well. My daughter used to scream and cry when doing her hair, and yes, it used to get me very emotional, you know. And I tell my mother and her mother, I'd like to keep this girl's hair short because this pain is not a pain any child should be feeling. We eventually got to a compromise where she said, look, she'll do her hair. I don't have to be involved. But I said, look, if ever I'm going to speak to her and she tells me she was crying or her brother tells me she was crying, I'm going to shut this down. I wanted to speak about this thing of policing. Use Nigeria as an example, and it goes back to what I was saying about leadership. Where people don't have backbones and other people feel they have the right idea. I do not have a problem with you policing people if it's for a good benefit. They might fight you back, they might be very thankful, but it's what society is built on. Leadership, if you can see to what you were saying, if all of you are fighting about hair, then just cut it off. Let me just force you guys to cut it off because your parents are complaining about money. There's oil on the school desk. There's whatever. So rather just cut it off and keep it in a whatever. So I believe in policing, and I think I'm doing that with my daughter. I'm trying to set an agenda for them to love themselves and find themselves.